Hello, my dear ones. How are you? I know some of you are suffering, and all I can do is say, hang in there. As quick as you can bring in that alkaline chemistry, and as quick as you can get your kidneys to filter, this will start this process of moving this stagnant acidosis out of the body. Some of you have been acidic since you left your mama. And it just takes a while to get this lymph system because we're talking miles long. You've seen me hold up the finger with the lymph system just in the finger. Amazing. So there's a lot of pathways and a lot of hydration that needs to take place during this process. And that kind of leads me into this one, and I wanted to read this one to you because this guy's been back and forth with me for a while on this, but I wanted to touch it because I think it's important. And there's a spiritual side to everything as well. I hate to say that everything's spiritual, if you looked at it that way. Everything is God expressing itself. So is there a time when something's spiritual and a time when something's not? Not really. But we tend to look at that which is spiritual as being awakened, more conscious, more loving, more humble, those sort of things. We tend to call that spirituality, or the change of focus from matter and the things of matter, energy, space, and time, the toys, the drama, to just being aware, awake. And we call that spirituality as well. Outside of that, I don't know. So I'm going to kind of read this to you and see, because it does pertain to a lot of people. And I did a radio show with this guy, and he wanted to talk to me about this particular issue here. He said, we are alloys all wanting to heal the world. Since we're briefly here in this dimension, we might as well do the most good we can. And I agree with that. It's when it's almost like a buddy system. As one awakens, they put their hand out and help others to awaken. It's almost an inner thing that you've got and now you want to give, because you get excited about learning truth and stuff like that. And it is exciting. I was so excited when I realized that, no animal cooks their food before they eat it, and raw foods houses the energy and the blueprint, and also has the secrets of genetic codes and stuff like that, and that these are little conscious beings as well. And so he goes on to say, my research continues 24/7. Now, when I got into health, I was just like that. Now, this person is about my age and has been seeking, it sounds like, for quite a while. I quit seeking years and years and years ago. If anything, if I seek anything, is to understand how to explain more through chemistry and physics that which I already know to be true. Because the problem with creation, it is mind-driven. And if anything, I hope you learn from me is that the mind is a tool that you use, but it is such an incredible tool that it itself thinks it's conscious. And therefore, it begins to control the user. It's like what's going on now with some of these robots, and these computers are almost, I hate to even use the word, but learning self-awareness. They're learning the power of deduction, and they're taking some of this programmed information and expanding it beyond what we thought a computer could do, which is quite interesting when you think about it. It brings you into the Arnold Schwarzenegger and machines with its own consciousness and stuff like that type of thinking. Scary. But that idea came from somewhere, right? Ideas just don't float around hanging out nothing. The thing is like I said, when one comes in and understands what he has to do, he understands that there's only two sides of chemistry, that life is simplistic as it is complex. Man has just got so lost in the complexities that he's become stupid. So even in the natural health field, what we do is always seeking how we treat a symptom. And that's the whole simplicity of it is that you have to back up to the cause. Treating symptoms is what man's been doing for time immortal with very little success, a lot of money spent on products and supplements and pharmaceuticals with only marginal improvement, particularly with the natural health field. With the pharmaceuticals, it's pure suppression of symptoms, only to later on have things explode on you. So we keep finding, and I hear people keep saying, we're seeking someday a pharmaceutical, a magic pharmaceutical will cure everything. And that is extremely unawake to think that. And it's a highly conditioned mind that thinks anything that's possible like that, because that isn't the case. And nor will you find an herb that'll do the same thing either. That is ridiculous. You have to understand there's a whole process in everything. You have many parts to your body, many organs and many glands. And their job is all kind of basically working toward the one goal. Chemistry processing, energy getting. So we're processing chemistry to get the energy out of it. We're processing chemistry to take the uniqueness out of the components that we're looking for. And so you have a chemical process, a food processor. The human body is a simple food processor. Processes complex chemistry into the simplistic again. It's kind of like life starts out at the subatomic nano. I mean, you could go down as far as you probably can, but still, basically, you can start at the atomic structure. Atoms, creates elements, and elements creates substances, and you start getting into form and, all of this sort of thing going on. And you get into how chemistry works, how you can reach saturation, and just all the movement of ionization and all of that, which if taught properly would be simplistic to understand. The complexities are no doubt there, but that is I'm going to be lost for a long time field. When you start looking at the simplicity of things, you're beginning to wake up more. The mind just loves complexity. It loves the puzzles. Everybody loves to play the games, the puzzles, and all of that. But that's creation. That's why souls come to these worlds, is to play and to play the puzzles, to play the dramas. I'm going to be an actor today. I'm going to be this tomorrow, an actress then. I'm going to play a male this lifetime, a female that lifetime. Maybe I'll play the plant side. I'm going to play, right? But playing is different than awareness. Playing takes place in embodiments, just like buying a car. I'm going to go play in my new car. I'm going to go play in my car. Right? So I got caught up in it myself, and I think it's a good idea sometimes to get caught up in the excitement of simplicity. When you start invoking the mind, the question after question after question will keep you going forever. And then when it's time for you to leave the planet, you haven't developed your awareness enough to not get the ticket back. So then back again, you're in the same scenario. And so it is this way. You don't just get from here to there. I'm here one day and I'm in heaven the next. Not that way. So you can get trapped in that. I thought I was, heavily, and I've done a lot of research in my life. I have quite an extended library, and I've given away a library of books. I used to have a philosophy: read a book, give a book. And that's what I did. I'd read a book and give it to a friend or give it to somebody and then get another one or two. I used to have a guy at health food stores, and I had a big library. I've never seen a health food store have a book room like I had. But then I loved to read it one time. I hate it now, but I used to read, study, and look and see where other people, what they've learned and all of this sort of thing. And especially in the spiritual works. I wanted to understand Hinduism and the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita and all the, I just wanted to understand, Nietzsche and philosophies and the old modern day Alan Watts syndrome, J. Krishnamurti's, which was really an eye-opener. So I was, just heavy into looking and reading. I would I had a guy come in my health food store and buy a big stack of books, and I wouldn't see him for a couple months and back in and buy another one, and he was doing what I did, just taking in as much of what somebody already knows. But how do you break that chain of studying what we already know into how do we learn what we don't know? See, how do we learn truth that is not here yet? And that takes consciousness, that takes awareness, which is the creator. All things come out of that. You can't use conditioned states to learn the truth, because these are just conditioned states. These are just your brainwashing. I'm reading a book and studying in school. I'm learning A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and that sort of thing. But those are already conditioned states. How do I learn anything beyond that conditioned state? And the mind cannot learn beyond its conditioning. That's awareness that does. That's the true you that does. So there's a certain point where you have to break the I'm lost in this chain of thinking and stuff. But I get where this guy's at. Not only studying, but also doing what I share with people to learn more. One of the things that became clear years ago is that detox lifestyle protocol is not the same as the rebuilding protocol once the body is clean. Now, I want to reread that because there's some part of this, and I'm not to be antagonistic to anybody, because I agree, but I also disagree. All right, and I'll tell you why. All right, so the detox lifestyle protocol is not the same as the rebuilding protocol once the body's clean. Now, if you're trying to become a bodybuilder with gigantic muscles and things like that, then I might agree that you need to step in another level of thinking, and we'll cover that here. Matter of fact, some of the bodybuilders are trying to get there. Here's one of the problems. If you were born from raw food parents, and you had raw foods from the day you were born, and your parents were born from raw food parents, and their parents from raw food parents, we wouldn't be having this videos or this discussion whatsoever. But that's not the case. The generations on this planet of cooked foods, meats, dairy products. Now remember, everything has its own level of awareness, including food. So when you get trapped in these and you're being raised and you're going through these different states of consciousness, foods are actually tied to these different states of consciousness. So it takes a certain growth in awareness to also grow and be able to handle the higher levels of foods, because there's a certain point that you'll have a tug of war spiritually between eating high fruits and berries, and then also eating vegetables, and then maybe stepping down into the lower forms of grains and beans and things like that. So, but all these are tied to your level of awareness, level of stress. That's another factor in how you eat. All these factors of how you eat, the level, I've said this before, of responsibility that you take on can also create. You look at some of these people that have taken on loads of responsibility, they can get quite large. So there's a lot to looking at the states of wellness and health and that sort of thing, even though the simplicity of this. However, it's important to understand that some people go on a detox for a year or two, and then they want to build up. And they find that on the detox, they just can't build up on it, and they want to start adding things to build back up. I submit to you that when you get to that point, you haven't gone as deep as you need to go, because the body's the one doing this, not you. All you're doing is changing your lifestyle to the foods your body's designed to eat. There's no way you can argue that the human being is other than a frugivore. I don't care what. I've had so many years, 50 years of this, so hard to argue that. And I've had veterinarian after veterinarian. I have local veterinarians that are friends of mine. We've looked at my chapters together. And so there's no question that we fit in a frugivorish line. Now, you can argue that some frugivores are eating vegetables like the mountain gorillas, but look at why they're mountain gorillas. You look at where certain primates are stuck. You look where the environment and what we have to eat. We grab whatever we can. That's what happened to Homo sapiens. They migrated to northern climates. Well, unfortunately, northern climates are not a hotbed of fruits. So we had to adapt eating lower forms of food. And that's just what happened. But still, the health wasn't that bad. You still had some degree of longevity, on the vegetables even. But where you saw the dramatic turn in the longevity of man is when he started introducing protein. That's when you saw the longevity start to go the other way. As much as the brainwashing of the need of protein, it is totally brainwashing because it isn't a level of food, it's a nitrogen food and it's an acid ash food. None of the vertebrates are really designed to overeat on the acid ash foods. This is why the canine have so much kidney problems and so much calcium related problems and tumors and things like this, is because we have fed them basically acid ash foods. This is why I was into the rabbit doo-doo. Dogs love rabbit doo-doo because you're in a pre-digested, because omnivores are not like herbivores. They don't have an extensive breakdown of vegetable matter, the ability to do that. But a herbivore can break this matter down, and then an omnivore can consume their doo-doo. Pre-digested protein. Or amino acids is a better way of looking at it, because by then it's amino acids. So the real problem comes in with the lack of understanding here that sometimes it could take you years to reach that point that your body will turn around and start putting muscle. Because I've detoxed tens of thousands of people in my world. And I see that when you reach a certain point, your body will start putting muscle on the same diet that you thought was taking them off. And if you haven't reached that, you haven't reached the depth, because as soon as you go raw, the body's going to start hydrating and cleaning itself out. That isn't something you can stop. You can stop it by eating cooked food, no question. That will stop the detoxification process, and that's what I think where the people see that little bit of rift. They haven't reached the bottom yet to where the body turns around and starts building itself up on the same food that took it off. Now ask yourself, when you're talking about what he's saying here, the regenerative process is different than the detoxification process, then how come it is that I can take let's say a Lou Gehrig's case. There's a diagnosed, right? So it's a chronic neurological problem, right? Where you have, in many cases, brain lesions. In other words, acids are chewing on your neurons. So you have myelin sheaths that are in the chronic levels, which are the adrenals. You have all the neurological problems, right? The spine can be out of whack on top of all of that. I can put them on a fruit diet, and within at least 6 months, they should be at least up halfway walking. And you start to see the modeling go away. You start to see where their fingers and limbs and their feet started curling in. You started seeing them straighten back out. That is not detoxification. That is regeneration. So there is both taking place, believe it or not, simultaneously. There's new blood pathways, hopefully lymph pathways, neurological pathways if you're high up there, that's for sure. I've done some fascinating cases where we saw new neural pathways going around a plated neck that had a complete spinal separation on a head-on car crash. And it just grew new neural pathways. That is regeneration, my folks. That is regeneration during the detoxification process, because the same foods do the same thing. Now, we can argue that if we go to, let's say, alfalfa, and we go to some of the greens, that they have more amino acids, and therefore you could build muscles more. I will agree with you there. I'm not so much into building muscles and thinking of that as I'm a healer. My number one love is God and consciousness. That takes precedence over everything. Healing someone up to me, has been simple. Now, there are some people that are extremely down. Their bodies have gotten so acidic, they've allowed acid pharmaceuticals, like this one young man that had 14 different treatments of radiation with I don't know how many rounds each one had. When you put your body in extreme acidosis, you're not going to pull out of it just with the snap of a finger. Chronic areas like arthritis and stuff like this, you're going to be working a while. It can be painful to detoxify. I mean, there's some of these deeper chronic levels, they're not fun to come out of. No question about it. I'll be the first to admit it. but you can come out of them and will come out of them. So there's once in a blue moon you have someone that's just so deep into this they can't come out of it, and their will to live is lost. And I get it, but it's a physical body, it's a vehicle, so what? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You know, you have bodies that you use to express yourself, but it's you that's the key factor of all things. You never lose the you. So I think that's where some of this comes in, is that if you stop detoxifying anywhere close to where you're done, I don't care what raw you're on, you're going to keep detoxifying. You could keep losing weight. And it's just that your body's shifting its awareness into cleaning itself out. But it's rebuilding. Sometimes rebuilding takes a while. You have to look at how, through your eyes, how involved you are, how chronic are some of these tissues in the body. You know, it takes several years and involvement sometimes to rebuild the body. But both of those things happen together. You can put more muscles on, I think, with alfalfas and things like this, but you will feel the difference. If you've been on a high food, and we'll talk about this as he talks about it, and he's feeling the same thing, is that when you're on a high food diet for a long time, it's hard to go back to the vegetables. Well, what do you go back to? You cook them down, only because the fibers are so hard to break down. So some people do in the cooked food. You know, his whole thing is about cooked food. And so in Portugal, you know, they had yearly symposiums, and a lot of microbiologists, that guys that are into macrobiotics and things like that, where they are into cooking their vegetables and stuff, and they argued with me, they claim it's better when you cook your vegetables and stuff like that. And it's like, really? Well, what it does is lowers the magnetic energy big time. It does break down the cellulose so the body can deal with it better. And some people have a feeling that cooked food is poison. I mean, I hear that radical side too. Well, here's the thing. There's two types of foods. There's your acid ash foods, and there's your alkaline ash foods. Your alkaline ash foods are your fruits, your berries, your melons, and your vegetables, basically. Your acid ash foods is everything else: grains, beans, pasteurized dairy products. Raw dairy products are alkaline ash. Some people, and he talks about milk here. Let me read on a little bit here. So much is said in such detail that, let me see here. One of the things that became clear years ago is that detox lifestyle programs go different rebuilding. So much is said in such detail about cooked food being dead poison. That's not true. Cooked vegetables is not poison. However, they will lower your systemic energy. I had to go to that when I was teaching a lot of out-of-body classes, because I've told you this before. I didn't have any problem with energy. That's never been a real problem of mine. I've actually had to eat to take out some of that energy, because I wasn't going to sacrifice it by losing consciousness. I'll sacrifice by eating some Indian food or eating some vegetables once in a while. An invitation to destructive microorganism action. Well, you know, everything has a microorganism action. Sorry, that's life in the fast lane, not just cooked food. Everything has it. So, I mean, that's a little over the top. Sometimes we get lost in some of these take some of these views and take them into what I would consider the radical side. That I can't imagine why any health teacher would recommend 20 or 30% cooked food. And I think it's because you're more focused on yourself, man. If you're a healer like me and you deal with all these different levels of consciousness, you're going to recommend 20 to 30%. I myself maintain about a 20% cooked food lifestyle. I get along pretty good that way, you know. The stress level I run, the busy level I run, pretty intense. I don't have time to sit here at home and juice, so I do eat salads every lunch. I go to restaurants to eat my salads. I make sure they use a veggie wash on my stuff. And I use only the dark greens, you know, that sort of thing. And I'm a little antagonistic to salads, but I've learned it keeps me at a certain balance physically. Because outside of that, I have to be careful, because I can get out there. And it doesn't do anybody any good if I get out of balance. So there's a balancing factor to that he doesn't understand here that's important. Sometimes when I first got into this, I couldn't see why anybody had any cooked food whatsoever. Once you understand that the living food is where the chemistry, the proper pHs, and the magnetic energy and the consciousness of the plant is, why would you alter that? Well, life isn't that easy, my friend. You get mates that don't eat the same way you do. You get in lifestyles and busy and things like that. I couldn't always have a health business because it just wasn't profitable to keep me surviving with family and raising my son. So I had to get and do other things to make a living and see people work with the health on the side. Still teach classes, but and then spirituality consumed me for years. I was having a tremendous amount of out-of-body experiences and being taught a lot with the Eckmasters, and that's a whole nother level of energy and everything else. So it's hard to explain. I do not judge like that, anyone. And it's helped me to help you better, because I can tell you that you put someone on a raw food diet that's not used to that, they're going to reach a point, especially when you're dealing in tumors or you're dealing in neurological problems, that long-term raw foods, you're going to rat out. It's going to mess with your psychic. And I'm notorious for giving you what you're craving. I think it's going to take lifetimes for people to move into that lifestyle, to get your parents raw, your children are raw, and you work this out of the human consciousness. I think it's going to take a while to do that. I think the idea that you think everybody can turn themselves raw and stay 100% raw is not practical in any way, shape, or form. No matter how true it sounds and rings to you, it isn't something that the average person is going to be able to do. For all the reasons mentioned, their family lifestyle, their mates. You might be like I was, hooked with a mate that's not into health. That's difficult, not to go out once in a while to a restaurant with them and to do things like that and to sit there and be, it didn't work that way. At least it didn't in my world. And I'm not going to, if you want a relationship with someone, there's a give and take scenario that has to go on there. You can't just always take in a relationship. You want to give, This is asking for further trouble down the road, or at least not what the normal experience could be, yet most raw teachers do not themselves live on raw food. And that's why they're teachers. A good teacher of the raw will be a balanced teacher. But if you look at the people like the David Wolfs and the things like this, they all come off the raw and balance out a little bit. And it just deals with consciousness and where man is at, and so is that it's in these worlds. All the things that are around you that pull on your attention. Self-discipline is a big factor in all of this, no question about it. The more that you're involved in things, the less self-discipline you have. The more your attention is pulled external to you, the less self-discipline you have in yourself, that's for sure. And I battled that a lot, having more. I used to be super with self-discipline. Now, not so much, I'm just so busy. I'm still working on a stack of iris analysis from the class. Those that are writing in serious trouble want them, so I've got to get them in there first primary, because they're some of them are pretty bad. They need help right now. And so then I'm doing videos. We're redoing and trying to make the website better for you and the club better. I've got a whole schools going online. Then I have my classes that I have to get all set up for. And it takes a month or two easy to get the next class all prepared properly with the proper outlines and adding what you've learned. And, so the word busy doesn't even, I'm frustrated with my body because it can't keep up with how busy my mind is. And then I don't want my mind to dominate my consciousness. See, so all these things are factors within yourself. If all you have to do is think about your health and work on your health, well, go have fun doing that. But that's not the way in my world anyway. And it wouldn't allow me to be a good teacher because I'd be judging you. And the worst thing you can do is judge another. Because as soon as you do that, I guarantee you karma will hit you. You will be put in a position to where you will have the same scenario. That's why you don't want to judge, because it will put you into that same situation, and then you'll lose. You'll learn why you don't judge. So I don't judge. I don't need to plant myself deeper in this world karmatically, that's for sure. One reason could be that they're addicted to the taste and sensation of cooked food. Well, maybe. You know, you take some fresh picked green beans, cook them down, and put some onions in them. That's pretty good. And then you have big beefsteak tomatoes. I was raised on that. So a big beefsteak tomato, even though an acid food, but that with some fresh green beans and some fresh onions, pretty good. Now, we used to eat the green beans raw, and you can eat them raw, but they're pretty fibrous, you know. But again, man is a frugivore. So I think if you have 80% of your life in the fruits and the berries and the melons and 20% with vegetables and salads, you're doing pretty good considering, I mean, considering where man is, and, you can't expect the whole world to turn raw. That's an ambitious and a non-practical and, quite frankly, not possible scenario. Not going to happen. So you want to be more practical in that. I was for a long time. Well, this is true in certain tastes. At my age, and I plan to leave this world, is when I'm ready, I want to get out of here. So I like taste. Sometimes it's about taste. So a good example, I admit I love Indian food. Now, I only have it in a blue moon, but I just love the flavors of spices. And yeah, I do. I do. I love the flavors of spices and stuff like that. Yeah, you pay a price, absolutely. But I put myself back on the fruits and clean myself out, and I'm good with that. But flavors, it would be something if we could get fresh organic fruit everywhere, and we could just go pick up a fresh organic fruit and just chuck it down, and like organic peaches and stuff like that. That's not reality. And most humans are not in places where they can procure things like that. So you've got a lot of situations to think about when you're making these kind of statements of humans stuck in places like Alaska and northern climates and Europe, where sometimes organic fruit isn't possible, and particularly any kind of fruit that's ripe and tastes good. I was seeing this Alaska program that's all about the guys who fly the airplanes of Alaska. It's a new show on now. And they were bringing this big thing of strawberries to this remote Alaskan village. Well, they were all moldy. It was too bad. By the time they got up to Alaska and to get to the plane that goes to the remote areas, they were already bad. So those poor guys are not going to have any strawberries, But again, man is not suited for those type of environments, but are in them. And so you have to work with the environment that you're in. You can't expect everybody just to move to the tropics. That's impractical. And then after going back and forth for so long, I finally realized cooked food actually felt dead. Yeah, it feels, well, it's not dead, but the energy is definitely a lot less. You cook vegetables down, they only give off about, say, 1,500 angstroms of energy. Dead food, if you want a dead food, that's meat. Cook meat, it's pretty dead, magnetically speaking. But vegetables, about 1,500, which is low considering they're about 9,000, fresh, 8 to 9,000. And fruit about, 11 to 12,000. And I never ate any more of it after that. But that did not end the problems. After the detox phase, so this guy's making the distinction between the detox phase and then he's still got problems. If you still have problems, you have not ended the detox phase. You might have ended it, but you ended it before you were ready to end it, because that's why one detoxes. Detox isn't just a program of a few weeks or a few months and I'm done with that, now I've got to know. That's why I called it and coined it regenerative detoxification, because both of these processes are happening together. And if you're still having problems, then you haven't ended your regenerative detoxification. No, not at all. Keep going. If you have to take a little break, take a little break, and get yourself balanced out if you can pull yourself back. There's one thing that's for sure here, is that if you do too much cooked food and get lost again, it's hard to pull yourself back. I did that before. I got lost back, not 100%, of course, but, where I was doing 50-50. And it was hard to pull myself back, but I was going through a lot of things, emotional things and all kinds of things, And so that's life. That's life here. And you have to be practical in your understanding of life and with others as well. You have to have humility in your world with others because humans are going through all kinds of things here. This is a hellhole here at certain levels. And you can drown yourself here in some pretty low levels of despair and unhappiness, and the human condition is low. But that's why I came out with a chart: the 5 worst foods on the planet. Now, that's meats, that's dairy products, that's beans and grains. These all are the top worst foods on the planet. There's nothing healthy about animal foods. There's nothing healthy about milks. I don't care if people feel a little surge with it. They're all mucus forming, even raw milk. Not a food you want to mess with when you're older. You'll clog your lymph system right back up. And let me tell you, it ain't worth it. I don't care how good you think you feel. Then there's the grains. What are they? These are dormant foods. They have enzyme inhibitors and stuff. You have to cook them to break that down. Beans are the same way. So there's nothing healthy about these type of constipating. And talk about microorganisms. Your microorganisms love the fungal foods or the acid ash foods more than they like the alkaline ash foods, let me tell you. So you have to consider that when you're considering the type of foods that you're eating here. After the detox phase, which I had already done for a long time, rebuilding is needed. Well, if you don't have any problems now and your symptoms are all gone, you should start to see muscle coming back on you. At least for my clients, I see muscles coming back on. If you're trying to be Mr. Olympia, well, maybe not. So then maybe you want to go down to your alfalfas and things like this, but I'll read on. Needed muscle mass and athleticism. Now, I disagree with athleticism. When we've got clients that are on fruit that are making records in running, field and track, and this isn't about athleticism. I'm talking about muscle mass. If you want to have muscle mass, then you might have to step down to where the horses get it and step into the alfalfas and maybe some of the greens, that sort of thing. But, okay. I have no problem with that thinking. And high energy are needed. See, this is where this person has not gone deep enough. Because you don't get high energy. When you start stepping down into lower forms of food, that's not where your high energy is. Your high energy is in the fruits. Matter of fact, if you don't reach a point where you have so much energy that you don't know what to do with it, you're not even there yet. And that's on fruits. When you're on a fruit, berry, and melon diet, and you start getting to those levels where you've gotten deep into the body and now it's turning itself around, your genetics are rebuilding, you're going to touch a phase of energy that you don't know what to do with it. And if you haven't reached that, you're not done detoxifying. But it's regenerative detoxification. If you just use the word detoxing and then you're rebuilding, that sort of thing, you'll play into those two fields. No, your regenerative process, that's why I use the fruits, berries, and melons. That's the highest form of energy you can receive out of the carbon side of foods. That's it. You can't get higher going in any other direction on any other food. And energy begets energy. The law of homeostasis exists here. So if you want high energy, you can't get it by detoxing on fruit and then stopping and saying, well, I don't have enough energy. I need to eat something else. That just tells me you haven't reached where you need to go with it. Because when you reach that level, fruit will take you way out there to the point you go, how do I turn this off? I have clients who tell me all the time, how do I stop this? And I said, you got where I got. I said, how do I stop this? I went down to lower forms of food, but I kept my awareness and kept building my awareness. I did not hook my awareness to foods anymore. I hooked my awareness to me. I became awake, and I do not allow foods to interfere with my awareness, nor do I allow thoughts and emotions to interfere with my awareness. I get them, but I don't let them interfere with my awareness. There's a certain time where you got to pull back and be the driver of your own car. You can have emotions and play those games, but you never want them to bring you down. Yeah, you might go through some unhappiness, and sometimes I have days, sometimes I'm down and that sort of thing, but I don't let it. I still be in the now. I feel it in my bodies. So I only talk about rebuilding in the case of muscle mass, not in athleticism or high energy. I've had too many years experience with that. Psychologically, stability is needed to live in an insane world. Well, I kind of get you on that one, but I will say that if you get too far out there, and that's the problem with fruit, it can take you way out there. You have to have some stability to deal with a world that doesn't have it. So to do that, you might have to come down and interface with some cooked foods and things. I'm just saying, to be able to have humility within that, and to also be able to have some balance in your own world with that, and to interface with your loved ones. You might have a mate that if you get too far out, your relationship will end, because you can only take that so long, and your mate or you will want to pull away and end that relationship. But if you like the relationship you're in, then you have to seek a balance with that relationship. You've got another being there that's dealing in their own worlds of energy and that sort of thing. And remain balanced inside, not freak or weak, fearful or weak. Well, the only way that, low energy is where all this comes into play. Low energy is low consciousness in a way, but again, you have to separate, you have to become awake. You have to separate you from your experience in creation. Because if creation is dictating your experience, then you're lost in it. And that's what's happening with him here a little bit. He has to become more awake in consciousness. Now, don't mean to be negative in any way to this individual, but you must become more awake and separate yourself from your bodies, because your bodies might need a little more sense of balance, but you need to live in the present moment. But there's only so much of that even that you can do without going wacko, because it's intense. Like I said, when you get into the intense now, there is no time anymore. So every moment is new. That's difficult to live and navigate in creation when every moment is brand new. You walk to your car, you don't even know it's your car. It's just brand new. You drive down the same street. You've never been down the street before because it's brand new. You're not engaging memory. Therefore, and that's why memory, all of this is important to creation, but not to consciousness. But to be awake in creation, there is a balance, because you have to have stability. And stability is having memory a little bit, having some emotions. All of this is stability. But you have to have awareness behind that. I'm tried doing this on all fruit, and it totally did not work. I was not going back to cooked food, period. All right, so now you're trapped, right? Because the only thing you've got to deal with now is vegetables, because there's nothing else out there unless you soak your beans and grains, and it's like, really? Or eat your nuts, which are high proteins, and not a smart choice there. But I had to find a way to get back muscle mass and energy, and that's my point. If you had to get back to energy, you did not do your detox properly, or you stopped way too early. And I'll be quite frank. This is why I use botanicals. Now, botanicals are more vegetables, if you want to argue. Although a lot of your fruit are botanicals. I mean, you can argue that they're all botanicals, and everything has an effect to it, and it'd be a good argument, and you could win. You should win that argument. But what we would consider herbs or botanicals, if you could do that, definitely help. There are certain botanicals that just really accelerate the cleansing, the rebuilding process within the human body. It's why I created an herb company. I created this herbal line of herbs for myself, for my clients, not to sell to the world. I had no intention of doing that. I needed tools to help me rebuild my clients, and to help them faster and deeper and better. And so that's what drew me to botanicals, because man-made stuff doesn't do anything like that. Are you kidding? We're using man-made stuff to treat symptoms, and that's a no-brainer. That'll take you nowhere. I would not eat anything non-organic or cooked. Well, there's a problem with that. That might be this gentleman. But I've got people in places where there is absolutely no organic fruits or vegetables. Does that stop me from working with them? Oh, no, you're done. No, no, I can't help you. Hell no. Are you kidding? Get some good veggie wash and still eat them, because better than eating beans, grains, and meats and milks. I mean, look at the which is better and better and better, you know. And if you put the herbs on top of that, it'd be very helpful. And at least will get you further down the road than just saying, well, you know, I'm just going to go back to beans and meats and raw meats and stuff like that. Organic raw milk, blasphemy to vegans, really helped in several ways. See, and I don't care what people think about raw milk and how they feel it helped them. You have a negative side to that that you don't want. And that negative side is the production of mucus, because even the milks are too concentrated. And he said here, now this is interesting, organic raw milk really helped in several ways, but did not act as a carbohydrate for energy. Well, the problem with that thinking, my friend, is that milk is predominantly carbohydrates. And if you don't get energy out of your milks are not predominantly lipids, nor are they predominantly proteins. You're talking about cat's milk. If you're talking about predominantly lipid and protein over carbohydrate, you're not talking about herbivore or frugivore milks. Frugivore and herbivore milks are predominantly carbohydrates. Half of that is your lipids, and less than half of that is your proteins. So your proteins are way down to the bottom always, because they're a nitrogen source. That's not where you get your energies from nitrogen. You get your energy from carbohydrates, which is your fruits, your berries, your melons, and your vegetables. Starches are complex carbohydrates. I was not interested in eating 20 pounds of fresh fruit a day. Why not? You know, you don't have to eat. There isn't a poundage that you have to eat. I mean, what was it? The banana guy said you had to have 60 bananas a day. Maybe for him, if I eat 2 or 3 or 4 bananas a day, I'm pretty good. My first day starts the day out with a smoothie, and I always have a banana or 2 in a smoothie. But I also have bejeweled dates, coconut, apple juice, apples. Sometimes I put in grape juice or grapes. Just depends. Strawberries. I love organic strawberries if you can get them. To try to get enough carbs. It is not, see, and I'll submit to you, it is not the amount you eat for energy. If you're trying to eat a whole bunch of food for energy, you're not healthy. You haven't fixed your adrenal glands yet. So when you get your tissues healthy in the body and you become more conscious, you're feeding your cells a level of energy you can't get here in the physical worlds. A level of energy you can't get in the astral and mental worlds. Because now you become the feeder of energy to the cells. So you need to eat less than more. I've always needed to eat less and less the older I've gotten. And this guy is 70 years old almost. Same age I am. And I don't need to eat much at all for energy, let me tell you. But my adrenals are not in the dumpers totally. A little bit. But not totally. But I submit to you, you need to work on your tissues a little more in your life. Use the botanicals this time. Get more up on your fruits and your berries. Add your berries in there. That's where heavy nutrition is. And try to get enough carbs, as many fruitarians say. They recommending, and keep in mind, this guy's been asking these same questions for years now, from what I gather. You have to stretch your stomach, which seems totally a very bad idea to me. Stretch your stomach. That seems like a bad idea to me, too. That is not sensible. And I submit, if you're trying to compact your energy through eating more, wrong. It's what you eat. Matter of fact, the less you eat, the more energy you should have. Because the more you stress your digestive system, the less energy you have. So I don't get that. These people are not getting into the levels that I teach, because, or I've experienced myself, because you know that yourself. The more you eat, the less energy that you have. And this is true particularly with salads. It's an energy food and it's raw, but you eat too much and you've got this going on. You know, the less energy that's sent to the digestive tract, the more you have for everything else. You know, again, work with energy through becoming awake consciously, as opposed to trying to get them through the food you're eating. You know, you've got to start looking at the spiritual side of this. This is why I teach both sides of this. because this is a growth in your awareness as well as it is a growth in your cells' awareness and health. So I submit this gentleman has to dig a lot deeper in his health issues and probably should go on some botanicals to dig in with it. Trying to eat inferior foods on this planet to get yourself healthy, you can't always get there. Dry fruit, harder and harder to find it raw as the government is trying to eliminate as much raw food availability as possible. Yeah, God. This planet is what it is, you know. I hope that, I try not to be a conspiracy theorist, but, you know, it makes you wonder. I think where people are heavily involved is microorganisms, bacteria and stuff, so they want to irradiate everything and into the virals. The idiocy teaching of the allopathic community is what has ruined the food sources. It is what has ruined man's health. It has ruined everything. And yet this is a dominant healing system in most countries. And it's like, really? So that's what needs to turn around, is man needs to learn the ultimate healing system is nature, and learning the simplicity of chemistry and physics and the type of foods that the human is designed to eat, that sort of thing, and learn proper regenerative detoxification. And using the botanicals, once you learn that, you're pretty set. You try to get too complicated, you're going to lose yourself in creation, and good luck. That's why I'm trying to get awake from that, not get more lost in it. Thank you. And a lot of you guys the same way. For me, did not do it for me and hurt my teeth. Well, I like a good medjool date now and then, you know. I get about two medjool dates in each smoothie, maybe 3. I had already lost a desire for vegetables, and salads just made me overeat. And that's the problem, is that, you know, you do lose the, you know, vegetables are lower on the rung. And so, but you're trying to find some magic that doesn't exist. You've got to take your body deeper in the world of regenerative detoxification when you get to the point of this guy. Nuts and seeds have been my only protein source for many years, and I submit to you that's probably his problem. You know, he's living on stimulated energy as opposed to dynamic energy, because proteins are more a stimulant type of energy, and these foods do not have a lot of energy. Seeds are heavy enzyme inhibitors and stuff like that, and that's reality is. Reality simply states that if you had to crack every nut you ate, you wouldn't be eating a lot. And this is true for coconuts too. Not the most easy to open up nut. My body is very clean and no longer wants dried powders of any kind. Well, if your body's that clean, you wouldn't be asking me these questions, to be honest with you. So I'd like to see your eyes, and then we'll talk about clean. That no longer wants dried powders of any kind. Well, then you're stuck, because outside of what you're telling me, the only food you can eat is fruits and berries and melons. Sorry, there's nothing else out there that you can pick. I think you're over intellectualizing and you haven't dug deeper into this regenerative detoxification area. Powders, I agree, but if you're going to do your vegetables, powdered is probably the best. I'm just saying, like your powder alfalfa or juice your greens, you know, juice alfalfa and that sort of thing. But if you're a bodybuilder, it isn't always feasible to sit there and juice and all this other type of stuff. No matter what previously a live, wonderful plant they may have come from, they are totally dead now. Not totally. We do not, when our powders, we do not destroy the plant to powder. Yeah, you'll bring in some oxidation and change some things during time, but there's also some preventative things involved too. So our powders are not cooked or destroyed in any way, so they're not dead powders. And my body is not fooled by them. I need to get clear on a real rebuilding protocol. What do you want? I mean, you put yourself in a box and you want us to get you out of it, but you're not willing to get out of it because you put yourself in this box. There is nothing else out there. I mean, you can sit the rest of your life and try to find something. I submit to you that you need to dig in much deeper than you've done and use some botanicals. Get your eye pictures, look at what you have to do and rebuild. Get your kidneys to filter a lot better and go deeper into that world, because if you're not reaching a level of dynamic energy that feels endless and powerful on fruits, berries, and melons, you're far from done in your regenerative detoxification programs. That's just the way it is. That is in line with all Dr. Morse and other great health teachers back to Jesus and others, the Seen Gospel of Peace, Book 1. Well, go back to Jesus' time. Even Jesus didn't push fruits, but look at where. Look at the geographical locations these people were at, and also the average age of the Middle Easterners back then was 40-some, just like Eskimos. They only lived to be in their 40s and early 50s. It just shows what protein diets do to you. It does not create longevity, and you're talking about nuts and seeds here as being a big part of what you eat. So you have to look at that and understand that you really need to go back and dig a little deeper into a fruit, berry, and melon regime here. Have been helping people to understand. Yeah, and you got to realize that nothing's perfect. This is creation. And there's a lot to unwind in your own journey, a lot of karma to unwind in your own journey. It's very much tied to the genetic body that you have and those weaknesses that you have and the things you have to do to fix them and the level of awareness they get when you fix them. So there's a lot to consider there if you want to really dig into it intellectually and spiritually. Yeah, there's a lot but if you keep it simple and keep life simplistic, it'll help, because if you over-intellectualize, you're burning energy you have to replace. Well, intellectual energy, the only thing for intellectual energy is, I'm sorry to say, fruits and berries. That's the only replacement. Nerve energy only is replaced by fruits and berries, period. Nothing else has that level of electricity to give you, period, except for pure consciousness. That's it. So there's nowhere to go. You don't want to box yourself in. I want to discover, experience, and share what our real potential is. I submit to you that you have to go back to becoming a fruit and berry melon. Get into that level, that high level of fruits and berries, and detox deeper. If you have to use herbs to get deeper into that, go on. But it sounds like your adrenals are not near the potential they need to be, which means you got some more work to do there, because there's nothing else you can take to give you more energy. You're wanting more energy from what? You're trying to get more energy out of lower forms of energy foods that doesn't exist for you. And that's why you have fructose as the highest form of sugar or carbohydrate that lends itself to energy. The purest, simplest, easy, no insulin needed. So this is why it's the highest electromagnetic energy food on the planet. The glucose foods are simple sugar foods, but those are your vegetables. They have a 3,000 different angstrom at least. So I submit to you that you're not as healthy as you think you are. Okay. I've achieved part of it now at almost 70 years old, but nowhere near where I feel we could go. Well, you're working on the downside. I submit to you, get deeper into this and into awakening. Get out of the mind, because there's nowhere you can go. You box yourself in. You can't do vegetables. You can't do powders. You can't do, you're trying to get your energy through nuts and seeds, and that's only stimulation. You're going to hit a real hiccup with that. You're trying to get it through milks, which is just clogging you even more. So I submit you're going to have to turn around and dig deeper within thyself. Get a picture of your eyes. Matter of fact, you sent me this. So I tell you what, send me a picture of your irises, and I will be glad to show the world what your irises look like, and we'll have another discussion. Okay? People have told me Dr. Morse does not eat the way he tells people to eat. I want to talk about that. That he eats cooked food and eats at restaurants. I want to talk about that. I'm a healer. And when you come into me and you're sick, I'm going to get strict, very strict. I'm real strict. If you don't want strict, go to Attila. He's not as strict as I am. He's strict, but not as I am. You come in to see me, which I don't see anybody anymore. But if you do, I'm going to run you strict. I'm not going to take this level of thinking that you have here. I'm going to take you deep into that world. Whether you want to go there or not, you have to. But the cases we get, it requires that. 40-day grape diets and things like that, done those. Yeah, as I get older, it's harder for me to do 40 days grapes and stuff like that. I admit that. But my raw food is about 80% of my lifestyle is raw. I do have cooked vegetables at times, and I enjoy the balance. And I don't let it bother my consciousness. I do not feel bad about it. I don't, and I've never put that on you guys either. And I can tell you, you work better if you're a little more balanced than when you're too strict with people. I used to be too strict with people. I am strict when you need it and not strict when you're not needing it. It just depends where you are and what needs to be. And it's the same with you and the same with me. If I need it, I'm going to be as strict as you can get. When I have time to play, I might have a little Indian food. Oh, it tastes so good. But I enjoy that, and I don't let it get me, and then I'm back off to my raw again. I don't let it just consume me and bring me down, and I live and cook food and stuff like that. That's not true. Yes, my life is very busy. I don't go home and fix a raw lunch. I do like some. I'm not a social person, so I don't go out socially a whole lot. My lunch is grab and go. It used to be so quick. My clients were running into my lunch periods, and then I only had a half hour to hurry up and go grab something and come back. So the only thing you can grab is a salad bar, And so, yeah, I've had a lot of years like that to get where I am now. But it's how I got where I am now. I'm so busy, and I had to help people, and I wasn't going to take all that time for me and then let all you wait. No, I don't rock that way. If you need help, I'm here. I don't blame him at all. Well, that's a misstatement up there to begin with, my man, as I haven't been able to demonstrate it yet either. But I think you're trying to overdo it. I think if you really have that type of energy, go back to the fruits and the berries and the melons and go that level. Fix your adrenal glands, build them up, work with some herbs on that and herbs on the rest of the body. Your eyes are going to tell you what you have to work on. That simple. But my choice is different. I won't eat cooked food or restaurant food. Well, I don't have much cooked food. But I'll eat salad bars when I can, absolutely. I make sure they veggie wash them, though, that's for sure. A lot of restaurants just wash your veggies with water, and that's not good. Plus, I'm not much for lettuces. I am more for cucumbers and your peppers and tomatoes and carrots and things like that. That will be my salad as opposed to the greens. I'm not hot into the greens. As it has taken me a long time to break these addictions, and I'm not going back. Well, you obviously have the lifestyle not to go back. I don't have that. And I've traveled a lot. I've traveled to Portugal a lot. That changes your dynamics as well. You sometimes have to eat around the people that are taking care of you or the people that are preparing food for you. I don't prefer to be rude when someone is fixing me a meal and they're excited to have me there and they fixed a meal and some of it's cooked. I'm not going to say, well, I don't eat that. I wouldn't be rude for anything. I go by the philosophy, is it kind? Is it true? And is it really necessary before I say anything? So I don't have that in me either. I love people and I love to help people, and so I'm not going to be rude to them at all. And so, you have to understand, some of us as healers have been travelers and very busy, and that changes the dynamics a lot, to be honest with you, in so many ways. And then, of course, the life beats you down, in your spiritual development. Sometimes you get beat up pretty good. Some of the masters have beat me up pretty good. But that's good. That's good. I take it. People need to know a practical rebuilding protocol that works in real life. Well, I've just told you one. And if you're still trying to find something other than that, you're missing the boat, and you haven't got yourself back into the levels that you needed to be originally. You're separating detoxification from rebuilding, and they're not really. If you want to build more muscle, then as you get toward and you get all this energy and you get dynamicness, and you need to come down off of it, that's when I know then maybe you want to add some greens and stuff, okay. But you haven't reached that point yet, and that means that you're foundering, and there's nothing I can tell you here that's going to help you. Because everything that you know to be true, you can't use. You can't go to beans. Dormant foods, those things are worthless. Grains, worthless. Polysaccharides, worthless. Enzyme inhibitors, high phytic acids, these are worthless foods. And when you cook them up, they're constipating and everything. Beans are constipating as all get out. Nothing like that is vital. So there's nothing there for you. Meats, stuff like that, that's a no-brainer. Beans, nuts and seeds. Seeds are complex, very complex foods. Enzyme inhibitors, not there either. So you're talking about nuts. Well, then you have to soak them and da-da-da-da-da. Now you're in your high protein, you're not into your carbs. So where are you going now? Oh, your vegetables, but you can't have vegetables. Then you can't have, you box yourself in. The rebuilding protocol we are designed to would feel good to us and super high energy. That's just common sense. I told you before, you're at the top of the mountain, bro, and there's nowhere else you're going. You just haven't stayed and visited the top of the mountain long enough and fixed yourself. Because the top of the mountain for Homo sapiens is a frugivore diet. It's fruits and berries. And when you're there, try staying stable. Especially if you have commitments and you have responsibilities and you have relationships. Good luck. I'm just saying. If you're a single person and you're alone, yeah, baby, go all the way. But if you have to interface with humans, it might be somewhat difficult and you might not have a lot of friends. Just saying. I contacted, this is a bodybuilder that trains Mr. Olympias, basically, and we have spoken many times. He is one of the ones you directed to me as an example of successful bodybuilding on raw food. Well, starting to be, but there's a lot of our YouTubers that are starting to be very successful and big on raw food. Well, he's a great person, and we had excellent talks, but guess what? He's convinced it cannot be done on raw food, and he eats cooked food to build muscle. Well, again, you're going to build more muscle on raw than you are cooked. Problem? When you're on raw food, your body's going to shift into detoxification, so you're going to feel like you're losing muscle mass. That's where this little quirky problem comes in here. And Antoine isn't willing to take it deep into that level that he has to detoxify because he's in the business of muscle building and helping those achieve higher muscles. And that, I said this before on videos here, yeah, you're walking a thin line there. And yeah, you might be using some cooked foods. My hope for bodybuilders is at least to get away from acid ash foods. You can't have perfection here, bro. I don't care how bad you're trying here. You can't. So in building Mr. Olympias and things, yeah, you're not going to see them head into deep fruitarianism before they turn around because they're going to freak out from what they see. Because those that are working with high proteins are losing their kidney function. And you're going to work to get it back and to get the body cleaned out. You can get down to nothing. I've got one guy here and he just can't get to all raw. And he was a famous bodybuilder, 26.5, 27-inch arms, 40, I forget what he was up here, but huge. The pictures are incredible. The very narrow waist, But the price he paid, RA, common price that you pay for that. Beautiful looking, if you like that look. Which I'm not, I don't know. I like a nice V look, but the price you have to pay sometimes isn't worth it. Look at this one guy that lost his whole colon, and now he chews on me a little bit about raw and stuff, and so he's got to be careful. He lost his whole colon. He's still got 22 foot of small bowel left to take out. You got to be careful with acid ash foods. If I can just get the bodybuilders into an alkaline ash food, I'm happy. I don't care if it's cooked and vegetables and stuff. I'm happy because I'm going to save a lot of those guys from serious, serious problems. That's okay. I'm not going to reach perfection in that field. There's no way. Antoine's not going to reach perfection in that. I don't see that. If you're filled in track, absolutely go, because it doesn't matter. The thinner you are, the better you are. But when you start taking it, your muscles will come back on the same diet, because fruits have amino acids as well. But your body will stop. Your body's the one that's detoxifying. And when you go on raw, no matter how many aminos are in vegetables, your body's going to tend to clean itself out before it rebuilds itself. But there is that dual process that goes on. So you just have to ride with that. It's what I see in my practice. And I work with a lot of people. He believes in raw food but cannot find a way to make it work. Well, you know what? He just has to work himself through that, because these people are trying not to lose the muscle mass but to still move to raw foods. And yes, it's difficult. That's why the cooked food is going to come in and stop that, buffers that loss. But it's only because in raw food your body's going to take itself down. Your body's in the body shop. And bodybuilders can't afford to do that and still work out and build and keep big muscles for a while. Not going to happen. I've said this before. Bodybuilders can go down and look real horrible for a while, but going back up the hill, like some of our YouTubers, they got really thin. Some of the bodybuilders got really thin, but now, like Ian, look how nice he's looking. You know, yeah, he's doing vegetables, but well, most of the ladies like him. He's looking pretty damn good. This is a super important issue. Yeah, it absolutely is, but you have to understand what I'm saying is total truth to you. And you're trying to find something that's not there. You have to understand why this is going on in these people and in yourself. And I submit to you, if you're not into the bodybuilder stage, and go down, dig deep into the fruitarian level and the berry melon level, berryarian or whatever level, and get yourself cleaned down, dive deeper. You're saying your body's clean, but you're not acting like a clean person. A clean person has so much energy they don't know what to do with it. Their sense of smell is overwhelming. And so, you know, sometimes when you get some of your senses back at higher levels, you wish you didn't. A lot of things stink on the planet. I'm just saying. But you've got to spend time and deepen. It could take you several years to get to some of these high energetic levels. Okay. But I've taken a lot of people there just on the fruit diet. And it's amazing to see it. And I've been there. And it's like, whoa, then you're asking different questions. And I know by the questions you're asking me where you're at, because I've been to those higher levels. I've hit those. And so does a lot of my clients. And they're now trying to find a way to balance out, whether it's a little cooked here, a little cooked there. I don't judge that. Matter of fact, I go ahead, because I know what it's like to be unbalanced. And you don't serve yourself or your friends or the world around you well when you get unbalanced. But you need to dig a lot deeper with that. I understand why Antoine and a lot of the guys are not there in bodybuilding. I don't blame them. That's what they want to achieve. That's their goal. Just get away from acid ash foods. Get away from the beans, the grains, and the meats, the proteins, and the nuts even. You know, get your aminos from vegetables. You have to grind up and have powdered greens, okay, especially alfalfa and stuff like that. Absolutely. My muscle blend is a combo between fruits and veggie muscle builders. But you have to understand that we're trying to save these people from losing their kidneys. So sometimes this moves in increments. Things don't just suddenly go from this state to a high state of raw. That isn't always practical in your thinking, my dear man. Just not going to happen with the average person or with bodybuilding people. So I understand, and I don't blame him for working at the level. I've talked with him too. And it's just trying to find that balance for them. Yeah, they're not going to achieve dynamic health. No, because they have to get into the world of lymphatic drainage and things like this, and that's a fruit level. That's a high fruit level to really get it where you need to be. Neurologically requires fruits. But if you're talking about physical muscles and stuff, you know, your vegetable line has more aminos than your fruit line. But I submit to you that your primate family, a pretty strong family of vertebrates, and notice we don't get our milks from a mama gorilla. Yeah, not gonna happen. But a cow, yeah, a little more complacent. You don't argue with the power. Sometimes smaller muscles have more power than big ones. When I see these big bulky, and you'll see this in that ninja program where it's they got all these, you know, they're climbing and what is it? It's the it's on now. It just came back on, but it's like a ninja warrior. Athletic field of all types of things, from checking the bars and going up to all kinds of things. Notice the guys with the most muscles and the biggest brawn always fall into the water. The little guys, they're like, whoa, look at that guy. He don't have big muscles. Look at him. It's not always the brawn. I saw this on, what's his name? I really like him. He's bald, and he was on the, God, what is his name? He had a show on with athletics where you had to push this wall over and then climb up this thing, and then you were what is his name? But he is in the Scorpion. They call him the Scorpion guy. I mean, he's really a big guy, but the more brawn, sometimes the less they can do, the less endurance. And that, sometimes the muscle people, they're strong at first, but they lose their endurance, like a cat, high protein, lose their endurance. You want to think about endurance as well as strength. And so in looking at those athletic modules, you'll see that muscles sometimes on a raw foodist can be a lot stronger and might be smaller, but their endurance much greater. And that's what you also have to look at as well in these. I met so many raw vegans that looked like prison camp escapees with no energy. That's because they probably are on vegetables. Vegans, they need to be frugivores. And then you're going to go through that, go to the other side of that, build up. You're going to see energy coming out of their eyes. You're going to see them full of energy. They might not be big, but give it time and the muscles will come back. And if they want to build up, then they can. But yeah, I did too. Victor Kavinkas, or whatever his name, the sproutitarian guy, the survival to the 21st century, always looked sickly to me, considering he thought sprouts were the nectar of God. Yeah. But, also you can't judge that with, everybody comes here genetically compromised at different levels. Their lymphatic system are at different levels. This planet has not had access to understanding the lymphatic system until we brought it out earlier. So, I brought out the kidney connection to the lymph system when? 30 years ago. So it's only been 30 years that you guys have had access to this knowledge, and it took 10 years to get me up to where you guys could get this information. It was generally just at my local clients. So the kidney connection and the understanding of the lymph system hasn't been on this planet. So I don't blame them. They're all stuck in the same phase of eating raw and hoping that your lifestyle and eating makes you healthy. Now, you got to use herbs to fix yourself, my opinion, especially in your genetically more compromised areas. So I don't judge that. This has to be solved so we can share it and not just say something like, well, go eat whatever you want after you're healed. Yeah, but I think you're putting the world healed way before you're healed. That's what I think. I think you've given yourself, I'm clean now, why ain't I? I disagree with that totally, because the questions you're asking isn't one that is a healthy person. And if you're using raw fruits to get detoxed, that means you're using raw foods to get well. If you've got tumors in you, you're dying, or you've got in a wheelchair model and you're eating a fruit diet and it pulls you out of it and you can walk again and you don't think that's healing? And regenerative? I don't know what you're thinking, So I don't think you're near deep enough to where you need to be. If what we've been teaching and sharing is true, it has to work every day, all day in the real world. I see it every day, all day in my world. But I understand what I'm saying here and telling you is factual and why I see what I see, but also in my world here where we push you to get well. What you do after that, I don't care. I don't care what humans eat and how well they want to be. I'm more, let me get you out of here. Let me introduce you to yourself. Let you wake up from being a human to being consciousness using a human body to experience and get you into some high levels of joy and ecstasy and bliss instead of trying to figure how do I get my physical body healthy and lost in that low level of thinking. You can get lost in that, and that's where your energy spin is at that low level. Wake up and then play with your body and get them healthy. I've developed tools to make it easier on a mental and spiritual level. Okay, all right. But on the physical level, this question about carbs and building a strong body with no cooked food needs to be solved. So we can share an answer that works and that we demonstrate it to our lifestyle. There is none, bro. Just what I'm telling you is where it's at. But I get people to these levels. You might not see them, but I don't know who you're talking to. Heavy dependence on supplements and protein powders should really not be at all necessary. Shouldn't be at all used. So if you're talking to those type of people, well, no wonder you're not getting your answers. So I don't know who you're talking to, and who you're using as your base of conversation, but I know a lot of our people are getting extreme out there. I am looking hard for examples of people who have done it. I have found none. Well, I think if you're, you might find some, what was that lady? She's been a fruitarian for 20 years, and her kids, she has kids that were raised fruitarian, but not quite fruitarian. You could talk to maybe some of those, but I don't know, Maybe you would be willing to talk with me. Then we can decide if Dr. Morse would communicate about this. I thought I would do this through this video instead of calling you and dealing with this or going on your podcast or whatever. I would do it so everybody could hear my answers, because this is a question that everybody wants to know. But especially in athletics, if you're in athletics, you want to get totally up there in the fruit and berry and melon levels, and you're going to really, especially if you're a runner or any, we have those out there. Matter of fact, this beautiful lady was in our class, and she's an athlete, and man, she's a runner, and it's like, whoa, all raw, all fruitarian. I mean, matter of fact, it was, I talk about this, it was Yale or one of them way back took 44 athletic modules and took a crossbreed of all levels of diet. And the fruitarians, I did them all, mostly all the time. So I don't know what you're talking about too much there other than what I was telling you. I am about as serious of a scientist in the real sense, and I think maybe that's the problem. You're getting lost in that, and you haven't taken yourself deep into that world enough. If you haven't reached a high level of energy and vitality on a raw fruitarian diet, you're not healthy, period. Because you're going to be asking me, how do I balance out? How do I lower my energy? How am I able to work with humans on this planet? That would be what you'd be talking to me. You're talking to me as just someone that is not healed like you think you are. That's how you're talking to me like. And you're still trying to find the answers to that, which tells me you haven't taken this on like at the level you need to be. Because there's only so many tools that you have to play with here. This is a limited universe. You only have your fruits, your berries, your melons, and your vegetables. Outside of that, then you've got augments of those, of the nuts and the proteins and the eating of dead tissue and their milks and crap like that. Or you're implanting feces and drinking urines and taking supplements from chemists that don't know their butts from hole in the grounds and things like that. Is there some kind of magic? You got the botanical world, which is full of magic. But they're vegetables, so you can bitch about that too, man. See, I think you're trying to intellectualize the whole thing too much, and you haven't taken yourself deep into this world, because this is not what I see. I see the people out there you're talking about, but these are people that don't take herbs. They're kind of going between this vegan and raw vegan lifestyle, and they haven't kicked it up deeper into the world of regenerative detoxification, is what I see. If you're open to it, let me know when it's okay to talk. We'll set up a time. That's why I'm doing the video. It's not only about food, of course. I follow world events very closely for the last 20 years, and I know just where the global rulers are taking us and how and why. But that's why you see Trump and why you see the populists and why you see who's getting elected overseas. Look what Bannon was talking about that. You know, people want their sovereignty back. People want their world back. They want to get away from globalist thinking. That's why you're getting re-elections of the people that are more populist or nationalists, as they call them. Basically, they want their sovereignty, my individuality back. Because that's life in creation is individual, not socialistic. And you can only handle so much of that. You know, it's easy to think, I want people to give me. But that's not the reality of life. And you'll get lost in that karmatically, big time. You were sent here to be an individual and to make it on your own, no matter how hard or how easy that is. And that's all karmatically driven. So give a lot of love and open your hearts. It's not about the material things that you own. It's about how free are you. And the globalists, yeah, they would like to control. Governments would like to control everything you eat, drink, breathe, and what you think. And they want a big share of what you make, too. You know, like France is where it wanted to get about 90% of your income in taxes. You know, this is just where things are going when you have other people controlling you. When you have those that want small governments, those are where you want to go. Because you don't want your government. These are just other humans you've hired to help protect you, not to control you. And in the States, we totally, you know, the FBI became corrupt. The judicial system is corrupt as hell. I'm trying to get the FBI to help me with the IRS because they targeted me big time. They targeted tens of thousands of us, fabricated huge sums of money against us, and then went after us in court with corrupt judges. Don't tell me, I've been to federal court lots of times. You can get judges. Trump's and the White House is filing the same thing. You don't get these liberal judges ruling on the law anymore. They don't rule on law, in fact, anymore. Case law, precedent, and case law is so tainted it's not even funny. I know a lot about the law, spent a lot of years studying it, and it's bad out there. So we're trying to get honest constitutional judges that will rule on the merit of the case, the law of the case, not standing precedents and case law. Case law is about as tainted as you can get. There's plenty of corrupt judges willing to rule in favor of the IRS and not on any law in fact. And so then they use that to go after someone else. I mean, I've seen this over and over and over again. Bad stuff going on. So less government, the better, guys. You don't want someone controlling your world. You want your government to protect you so you can live in a free society where you feel free and love others and stuff like that. Not take what the government gives you, because then they have to take from someone else. And then that someone else starts going, well, wait a minute, I worked hard to make something, and then you're taking it to help someone that doesn't want to work? That's not how life works, guys. And when you get to there, then you have Venezuela and stuff like this. You have serious stuff because narcissism takes place and all kinds of things start taking place, and the power of the government starts controlling you. Take your guns. So now all you have is rocks and bottles to protect yourself. It gets bad out there, but we're in a very low level of creation here. If you want to get out of that, develop yourself spiritually, give love and humility to others, and help develop your sense of individuality and their sense of individuality. In relationships, the same way. I see how all the agendas fit together, and I'm interested in reversing it. Good luck. If you want to reverse it, then you build spirituality and health in people. That's what we're doing. But physical health makes the inner work easier. Yeah, but how do you get to the inner works? Thank you for all the great work in caring about life. By the way, you are, of course, free to share this letter with Dr. Morse. This came to my staff. It's just that it is going to be a long time before I can talk to him. I would like to talk to someone knowledgeable now, and I thought maybe you might be open to that. Richard. And he's got a show, Lost Arts Radio. Some of you have already tuned into his show. But Richard, I did a video this way, my friend, because I wanted everybody to hear your questions, because the answers to them are relative to my people as well. And that is, that simply put, if you don't reach the level of dynamic energy on a raw, organic, fruitarian, berrytarian diet, and while you're fixing and enhancing these tissues, then you're not healed and you're not healthy. And in that is regeneration. If there was not, I couldn't take an MS or Lou Gehrig's. Now, I don't treat that, but I treat neurological decay. And I don't treat that, I rebuild that. And I do it on a fruit diet. It's the only diet you can do that. If I put them on a protein diet, they're in a wheelchair and they don't get out. How is that not regeneration? It is regeneration. That's what you have to realize. But two work hand in hand. And when you hit these higher dynamic levels of vitality and energy, you're getting there. Your adrenals are up, your pituitary's perking, your endocrine glands are perking up. You're walking, baby. Now you're asking me different questions. How can I come down? How can I balance out? That's more my expertise, because then I'm going to talk to you about vegetable matter. Have a little Indian food once in a while. Don't put yourself into an austere position. You don't have to stand on one leg like a yoga did for 20 years. That's not necessary. You maintain your level of awareness and you control your mind. You control your emotions, and you can have fun doing it. And you don't have to chastise or lower anybody, and enjoy the world and the world of foods. Who cares? But you must hit that dynamic energy and that health first sometimes, As it is with bodybuilders, you're not going to achieve those higher levels and trying to achieve muscle mass at the same time. You've got a little give and take. And I've talked to Antoine about the same. If you want to balance this out, it's just what he's doing. So, Richard, you can't defame him so much either, because he's trying to maintain bodybuilders and still build them and still at the same time have balance. If not, he wouldn't be in the profession he's in. But at least they're getting out of acid ash foods, and they're keeping their kidneys, and they're rebuilding they can take herbs on top of their programs to help rebuild their bodies and to help these tissues. And that's the best you can do in a world like this. No one's going to find the world of perfection in that level. And there's no other food sources to pick. Tell me one. Look at nature. What's out there you can eat? Between your trees and your plants and your and the fruits and berries that plants and trees bear, and the nuts. You can have some nuts, but try eating too many nuts, especially when you're in pain. Try, if you're in a lot of pain, go off all your proteins and all that. Eat a raw diet for a couple of weeks, and then have some nuts. Let me show you what nuts can do. But I've read you letters about that. Many of you have experienced that yourself. So, Richard, you just have to know that. And but contact some of our people and stuff at Raw Figs and all that, and see what you can come up with. But I think it's unrealistic to think that you're going to achieve perfection in Homo sapiens early on in the level of decay of the human cell. We're at a level of decay, Richard, of the human cell like never seen before. It's going to take lifetimes to rebuild that. Like I said, if you came out of raw food parents and came out of raw food parents and came out of raw food parents, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But none of us have. We've come out of generations of cooked and dead animal eating and acid ash food eating and use of pharmaceuticals and toxic chemicals and stuff like that. So we're at baseline in the process of regenerating the human consciousness and the human experience. And you're not going to go from these lower levels up to the high level. Some of you are, because you're more spiritual in your awareness. But for the most part, you can't expect the human condition to change like the snap of a finger. Not going to happen. And unrealistic and impractical. And you don't want to get too much out of line there, or you'll lose your humility for humans and that sort of thing. And it's all in the process, who created creation. Talk to the Creator about that. That means you've been talking to yourself a little bit there. But I love you guys, and I know I didn't get to any of your problems here, but this is a big deal. And this guy keeps after this and after this and after this. And this is the only answer I can tell you, Richard. The only answer I can tell you. It's the only answer I found for myself. And I love to be 100% raw, and I love to be 100% fruits and berries for sure. It feels so good. And sometimes I achieve it, and sometimes I don't. My most concern is that I remain conscious and hope that I help a lot of you to become awake and get out of this level of experience, and at the same time teach the living foods, teach people how to detoxify and rebuild their bodies, and hope that goes out there and you do the best you can with that. So lots of love from me, and I love you all, and I'm always here for you. I'm always here, and if you need me, you don't always just look within. I'm always there for you. Okay? So love you all. Blessings be.